There's a gray wool blanket folded on a shelf in my hall closet. Army surplus, $22, older than my truck. It is number one on this list, and I have not seen it on anybody else's list in about 15 years. 17 items. 2 of the last 3 are the ones every checklist you've ever read leaves out, including the one my own office handed people at the fairground, which I helped write. Most of what's on here you can cover for a few $100s. My name is Walt Harlan. I ran emergency management in a rural Mississippi county for 31 years, which means I spent a good part of my career writing checklists like this one and then standing in kitchens afterward finding out where they failed. I've never sold a piece of gear in my life. Nobody pays me to scare you. I'm retired. 17 critical items you need, as I'd write it going into 2026. Most people watching already own 8 or 9 of them. It has never once been the ones you own that decide how the second week goes. Stay with me. 17. The EDC kit. 3 things on your person every day. A lighter, a small flashlight, a multi-tool, $25. Here's why it's on the list at all. People build a beautiful bag and leave it in a closet. Then the thing happens at 2 on a Wednesday afternoon, and half the folks I dealt with were at work, in a truck, or in a grocery store when it started. That bag was 11 miles away. A Bic, a light, a multi-tool. In your pocket, not in a bag. The gear you have is the gear you're carrying. That's what's on you. 16 is what's in your hand when the pocket stuff isn't enough. 16. Survival tools. A hatchet, 1 fixed blade knife, 1 pocket knife. Under $80 for the set. And people buy this wrong every time. They come home with the black tactical thing with a hollow handle and a compass screwed into the cap. And that handle is precisely where it snaps, because no steel runs through it. A folding knife is also not a fixed blade. The day you're prying a window, a hinge is a weakness with a name. Full tang, plain carbon, or stainless. Wood, or rubber handle. Boring is what survives. Those 3 cut 15 is the ones that move things, and most houses quietly got rid of them. 15. Hand and disaster tools. Bow saw, hammer, screwdrivers, flat shovel, crowbar, axe. Most of it's already in your garage in some form. The catch is that most of it isn't manual anymore. Nearly everything I needed after a storm came down to cutting something or moving something heavy, and in a modern garage, the saw is cordless, the driver is cordless, and by day 3, both are colored plastic paperweights. A charger needs a wall that works. 1 hand-powered version of each. And the crowbar's the one nobody owns and the one that opens a door after the frame shifts. That's the muscle. 14 weighs 4 ounces and costs people more money than anything else on this list. 14. Important documents. Licenses, birth certificates, insurance policy, deed, vehicle titles, medical records, and a written list of phone numbers. A fire-resistant document box runs about $40, because here's what happens after. Your insurance company and FEMA will both ask for paper you cannot produce, and the county office that issues replacements is closed and dark, same as everything else. And I watched a lot of people lose the one phone that held every number they knew, including their own daughters. Copies in the box. A second set with somebody who lives out of state, and that contact list on actual paper, in your wallet. Paper protects you afterward. 13 protects you during, and it starts with a $2 fix. 13. Home and personal security. Start with the cheapest thing on the whole list. Pull the 1/2-inch screws out of your door's strike plate and put in 3-inch screws that reach the stud behind it. $2. Then reinforcement hardware, better locks, a couple of window alarms, a camera if you want one, because doors almost never fail at the lock. They fail at the jamb, the trim splits, and the whole plate comes out of pine. But the bigger half of this isn't hardware. It's the generator everyone can hear, the only lit window on a dark street, and the fact you told the neighborhood how much food you'd put by. 3-inch screws this weekend. Reinforcement kit when you can. And be quiet. Quiet costs nothing. Quiet's free 12 isn't. And half of what people already own is dead in a drawer. 12. Batteries and power banks. AA, AAA, C cells, a couple of 9 volts, with some rechargeables in the mix. Then power banks, 10,000 to 40,000 milliamp hours. 2 ways this fails, and I've done both. Alkalines left inside a flashlight leak and eat the contacts I've thrown out more good lights than I care to admit. And a power bank self-discharges in a drawer, so the one nobody's touched since last summer is a brick on the night you need it. Batteries stay in the package, not in the device. And the bank gets topped off the first Saturday of every month. That's the small Power 11 is the big version, and it's where people waste the most money on this entire list. 11. Power station with solar input. Anywhere from 250 watt-hours up to 5 kilowatt-hours with a solar input on it. And nearly everybody buys it backwards. They pick a number because it sounded impressive on the box, then find out on night 2 that it won't carry the one thing they bought it for. The other half buy the station and skip the panel, which leaves you a battery that dies exactly once. So do it the other way. Write down the 3 things that must keep running: the CPAP, the phones, a small refrigerator. Add up their watt-hours for a day. Buy to that number and buy the panel in the same order. Power keeps things running. 10 is how you find out what's actually going on out there. 10. Communications. A hand-crank NOAA weather radio, about $30. Then a way to talk. Cheap walkie-talkies, a GMRS pair, or ham if you want the whole way. The crank radio handles what's coming in, and it's the easy part. What nobody plans for is talking to somebody a mile away with the towers down, and those blister pack radios promising 36 miles will do about half a mile with houses in between. That number is measured mountaintop to mountaintop. Crank radio first, always. Then GMRS real license, no test. Covers your whole household on one. Now 10's behind us, and 9 is the one everybody laughs at right up until about day 6 BAF. 9, sanitation and hygiene bar soap, hand sanitizer, disinfectant wipes, plain unscented bleach, and contractor-grade garbage bags. When the water stops, the toilet stops. That's the sentence nobody wants in a preparedness video, and it's the call people were most embarrassed to make. A house with 6 people and no working drain becomes a health problem in about 72 hours. And a good share of what makes folks sick after a disaster isn't the water at all, it's hands. The heavy bags are the whole trick. A 5-gallon bucket, a bag, a lid, and something absorbent. $4. That keeps people from getting sick. 8 is for when they're already hurt. 8. First aid kits, 1 in the house, 1 in every vehicle, and 1 for the animals, because a hurt dog in a crisis is its own emergency. The drugstore kit is 50 adhesive bandages and a pair of tweezers, and it will not stop bleeding. And the piece people skip is the truck, because the injury I saw most after a storm was never inside a house. It was somebody on a borrowed chainsaw, or a ladder they had no business on, half a mile down a road nobody could drive. Add trauma shears, a pressure dressing, and a tourniquet you've put on your own arm once, in daylight, to see how it works. A kit handles the cut 7 is the one I actually got telephone calls about. 7. Medications over the counter first. Pain reliever, something for nausea, something for diarrhea, an antihistamine. Then, as much of your prescription as your plan will let you carry ahead. This is the call. Not food, not water, day 4, blood pressure medicine gone, pharmacy dark, road closed, and a voice on my phone asking what to do. I had a truck and a radio and no good answer. And the anti-diarrheal isn't a comfort item. In a house with questionable water, that's the difference between somebody being sick and somebody being in danger. Ask your pharmacy about a 90-day fill or an emergency refill at a normal appointment. on an ordinary Tuesday, months before any of this. Now, everything I've named so far is equipment. 17 down to 7, the tools, the radios, the batteries, the box with your deed in it. All of it useful. Not one bit of it keeps a body alive by itself. The last 6 do. And 2 of those 6 are missing from every checklist I have ever read in my life, including the one that used to have my name printed on the bottom of it. 6. Shelf-stable groceries and canned food. 2 weeks minimum of what you already eat. Pasta, rice, beans, flour, canned meat, canned vegetables. And people make this harder and more expensive than it is. They buy food they'd never eat on an ordinary day, stack it in a closet, and let it die there. Meanwhile, what I actually watched was simpler. The one grocery in town went bare in 90 minutes, and never the whole store, the same 20 items, every time. So buy double of what's already in your cart. It rotates itself, and you never think about it again. That's the 2 weeks. 5 is the year after. 5. Long-term food buckets. Sealed food-grade buckets. Rice, beans, wheat, oats, with mylar and oxygen absorbers. 25 to 30 years. About $30 a bucket if you pack it yourself. Here's where the money goes sideways. People buy a pallet of freeze-dried meals at $4 a serving before they own 2 straight weeks of groceries, spending the whole budget on year 2 while year 1 sits empty. And there's a second thing about every bucket on that shelf that I'll come back to in 3 minutes, because it's why the next to last item exists at all. Buckets are your second year, not your second week. Build the 2 weeks first. Buckets are patience. 4 is the one where getting it wrong could genuinely hurt somebody. 4. Water filters. 2 of them doing 2 different jobs. A 0.1 micron personal filter, a Sawyer Mini, a Life Straw, $25. And a heavier unit that handles chemicals and metals. A Big Berkey, a Hydro Blue, a small reverse osmosis setup. This is the mix-up that worries me most. A 0.1 micron straw takes out bacteria and protozoa and does it well. It does not take out chemicals. It does not take out lead. And ditch water after a flood. In a county with any farming or industry, has both, so a straw hands you confidence you haven't earned. The straw is for the pond in a hurry. The gravity unit is for the 2 weeks after. A filter's no good with nothing to pour into it, and that's number 3. 3. Stored water. 1 week minimum. For a family of 3, call it 50 gallons. The figure you'll see is 1 gallon per person per day, and that's the drinking number. It assumes you never cook, never wash a face, never flush. Real life runs closer to 2. And a filter doesn't help on the first night, because a filter only improves water you already have. 50 gallons is 2 blue drums in a corner, or 10 7-gallon jugs on a closet floor. Store it first, filter it second. Water's stored and food's stored, and number 2 is the one that turns any of it into supper. 2. Off-grid cooking and fuel. A camp stove, a propane or butane burner, or a rocket stove. $30 to $100, plus the fuel. Now look at what I just did to you. At 6 and 5, I told you to lay in rice, beans, pasta, flour, and buckets of wheat. At 4 and 3, I gave you the water to cook them with, and at no point did I give you one single way to make any of it hot. That is the hole in every checklist I have ever read. Mine included for 20 years, and you'll notice how heavily all of us lean on canned food, which is a quiet admission that we knew it was there and stepped around it. A 2-burner propane stove and 4 green bottles is under $100, and propane doesn't go bad. Cook outdoors. Not the garage with the door up, not the porch outdoors, and put a carbon monoxide detector in the house behind you. Which brings me back to the blanket. 1. Shelter and warmth. Wool blankets. Sleeping bags rated for the coldest night your county actually gets. A couple of tarps, and 1 safe indoor heat source with a carbon monoxide detector standing next to it. I have given you 16 items, and not one of them is warm. That's not an oversight, it's what every list does. And mine did it for 20 years. We count calories because calories are easy to count and easy to sell. But a house with no heat in an ice storm falls toward the outdoor temperature in hours, not days. The person who gets in trouble first is the oldest one under that roof, and they will look you in the eye and tell you they're fine. Hunger takes weeks. Cold can do it in a night. So wool, because wool still holds heat when it's damp and cotton does not. Bags rated for your real winter, not your average one. A tarp and some tape to shut off one room and stop heating the rest. And if you buy a heater, the CO detector goes in the same shopping trip, not next month. 17. And if you run back through them, you'll notice something about the two at the top. They're the cheapest things on the list. A camp stove and 4 bottles of propane, under $100. A wool blanket, $22. The 2 items everybody leaves out are the 2 almost nobody would have to save up for. That isn't luck. It's what happens when lists get written by people thinking about equipment instead of a Tuesday night in February with no lights and a house going cold. Gear is easy to picture. Warmth is just a blanket, so it falls off the bottom. I wrote lists like this for 31 years, then sat at kitchen tables and found out what was missing from them. It was almost never the expensive thing. It was the stove, or the blanket, or the medicine, and not one of those people ever told me they didn't know. They knew. They'd just been meaning to get around to it. Here's Saturday, and starting it costs you nothing. Write the 17 down a sheet of paper and check off every one you already own. You'll check more than you expect. Then look at what's left and buy the 2 cheapest. For most of you, that's a camp stove and a wool blanket, and the pair is under $150. Not 17. 2. And while you've got the screwdriver out, put the 3-inch screws in your door frame. Then come tell me in the comments how many of the 17 did you already have in the house, and which 2 did you go buy. I read every single one of these. The stories you send back are the reason I keep recording.